What is up guys, Wraec is here with a new video, and today I want to talk about something that I've been working on in the recent days. I've in fact tested every single hero in the game together with Pandora. Mainly Pandora's box ability, which is one of the strongest support abilities in the game and allows her to give a unit that she puts in her box instantly 1000 energy and up to a 70% attack buff if you have for skill power. And that has been used to some quite insane measures in PvP, for example. So me personally, I like to use it together with Cryonia, but as I said, there are multiple heroes that you can do this with. Here is a defense, for example, where you can see that Cryonia absolutely demolishes the enemy. And I have to mention, this is on time, not even on ×3 speed, so this is normal speed, and still we are absolutely wrecking the enemy. The only thing that's really keeping us from immediately winning is that single Tazi they are trying to revive, but that can't save him, so easy win here for us. And I've gone ahead and I thought, well, she is the strongest unit in terms of support that we have at the moment, at least in terms of, well, instant damage burst support. You could argue twins are actually stronger for sustained damage, but that is another story. So what exactly does this box do? Well, this box puts one ally, the rearmost ally in fact, into it, makes this ally invincible, unable to cast skills, and after 4 seconds this ally is released, and as you can see, the ally gains 1000 energy, which is enough to immediately do an ultimate skill, and as well as a 50% plus up to 20% through skill power attack buff for the next 10 seconds. And on top of that, as long as Pandora is alive, she will also heal that ally and grant that ally energy, and quite an insane amount. It's 120 energy per second, and you can buff it to 160 with skill power. So that being kept in mind, I thought, okay, which heroes are really cool with that? Which heroes are strong? So I decided, well, I don't want to miss any, and I tested every single one. And while putting every single one of all the heroes that we have in this game, and I have to say, during testing, I really only noticed how many heroes there are by now in this game. It is truly insane. I thought we'll start off with 5 top units that I've decided on, that are not commonly on the radar of many people, but that I thought really outshined the competition in this well, selection of heroes. We're not going to take a look at heroes like Cryonia. I'm going to mention them. I'm going to go over them as honorable mentions, but those weren't really the topic of this video. Everybody knows the Mirael is strong. Everybody knows the Mirael is strong. That is not interesting. So I wanted to feature choices that, well, are not as obvious. So we're going to go over this, and afterwards we're also going to go over the general behavior of heroes together with Pandora, because that is something that I've also spent quite some time on finding out info about, and will help you understand Pandora and understand whether or not new hero might be interesting to use with her. So starting off with the first hero that I want to show you guys. And this hero is in fact Callan. So we put Callan in the box here, and what happens is that his passive skill triggers right after he leaves the box. This is the case for many heroes. Every hero that has a passive that triggers at the start of the battle will usually trigger this passive after being released from the box. There's only one exception to it, which is Skalita, which is in fact the only hero that can't be put into the box. Every other hero can be. For Callan, the interesting thing really is that he leaves the box at a little bit of a better time. The first 4 seconds of the fight are usually a little bit stale. There isn't too much damage going on. Having him in the box at that time and having him leave it and then trigger his passive skills, generating the energy field that protects his allies, then can often lead to way better timing and way better protection of your allies, which I thought would be an interesting tech tip that helps you protect your allies a little bit more. His damage is also quite nice. This is mostly because we get a 70% attack buff. I should have mentioned this. We have skill power on our Pandora, but I want you to keep an eye on it one more time, and specifically on the timing of the Siren ult of the enemy and our Callan activating his energy field. So just before he does his ult, we are in the wonderful position to have our energy field ready and keep our team out of harm's way. So this is something that you can use. The wonderful thing about this is that Pandora actually feeds Callan enough energy to get another ult during the time that he is in his energy field, which usually was the time he comes out of it and then has to generate the energy for the next energy field. This is something that we can kind of circumvent here. The problem in this situation was there was no near enemy, and Callan has a very difficult targeting that usually lets him run to the nearest enemy before doing his ult, which kind of doesn't work together with trying to protect his allies. I would rather have him stay close to his allies, have a similar targeting as Roan, trying to get in the middle of allies. He doesn't do that, sadly. His targeting is a little bit off. I was complaining about this in the review. It could be even better because of that, if he had a different targeting, because we can really keep his ult up. We have enough energy recovery during the time of his ult to have him do the next ult right after. If he weren't running to the enemy, we would have way more protection. But nonetheless, it is pretty great because we get a pretty good uptime. And if there is something like Daemon or something coming close to you and attacking your team, he will only run to that guy, do his ult, and still provide meaningful protection. So he's a very interesting choice on that. Next up is one of my favorites, and it's of course Salazer. Salazer received a Supreme Plus ability upgrade in the last season. This Supreme Plus ability upgrade allows him to get a shield whenever an enemy that he fought and attacked is defeated. You can see he gets like a big shield over there. And what makes him really great from Pandora's box is that he doesn't really struggle with the negative sides of being a melee hero. Usually melee heroes, they won't have to go to the enemy, and this delays the ult that they cast quite a bit. So when they first have to run to the enemy, of course, this takes some time, and thus they cast their ult a whole lot later, negating your benefit of having Pandora give you a ton of energy and making you able to cast your ult early on. By the way, we don't even have good charms here, I just noticed. For him, that's not the case. His ult has global range. He will cast it immediately when he comes out of there, hitting a ton of the enemies for a decent amount of damage. He then continues to get a ton of ults. He has a ton of CC as well. And with the shields and everything, he provides very good damage actually on the board. I think he's a very interesting hero. The main idea why I put him into this is we already made a video about him being cool with the shields and everything. But especially for the OG players that played during the start of the game, there weren't too many Graveborn heroes to choose from. So maybe some of you guys have this guy at P4. Now is the time to maybe pop him out again, give him another chance, try him out. You can get some very nice Graveborn skill teams with him, and he has very nice damage too. Next up, we have an absolutely undercover hero. Well, a hero that many don't expect, and that is Mirael. With the skin here, Mirael actually has an insane amount of damage. I didn't really expect that. We had some look at her when she got her Supreme Plus update, and interesting, by the way, how many of those heroes that we now take a look at that when they get a buff suddenly shine have a Supreme Plus upgrade. But you can see all of the blue numbers appearing, and I want you to watch that one more time and kind of keep an eye on those blue numbers. Damage numbers, by the way, yeah, pretty good. But keep an eye out for those blue numbers. Those commonly come from her. And we miss basically with our ults here on this map because it's really not the greatest for it. And there we see 1.2 million, 1.7 million with the huge bird. The enemies are in a bit of a weird position, but look at this. Look at the damage ticking down there. We are absolutely deleting that Siren, and we have this damage over time from Bones here, from her Supreme Plus ability, and she's deleting enemies left and right. Sadly, mine is just Paragon 1. What I usually did for those tests was I took those heroes, I tried to fight Andre first, because Andre had a little bit of a weaker team set with just a few P3 heroes, so I had like a little bit of a Paragon advantage on him, and then I threw them in the deep end, we can say, and I tried it against the Traxi, who had a full Crown P4 team set. Sadly, with Mirael, that didn't really work. She was just a little bit too squishy. We have very low upgrade of her X-Weapon here, so she just got deleted. But for the next heroes, we are going to take a look at them against the Traxi too, because that is really interesting. Next one is a very cool one. And it is Soren, and we are fighting a Traxi here, so full Crown enemy team. Keep that in mind. Soren popping out. He has to run, yes, but he has a little bit of movement. Look at that damage. Taking out that Bonnie. Crown Bonnie there, just taken out. Next hit, taking out the Siren and nearly the Ludovic. You have to see how close that really is. Just because he tried to reposition himself to hit more enemies, which is part of his kit, he lost there. But if he just kept on hitting that Ludovic, he would have absolutely took him out. And with this speed, it is an absolute madness how many kills he got. Of course, we lose here because, well, we are just pretty far away from Atraxi's wonderful team here. Take a look at that. It's not full crown, but it's still insane. And look at that. All of the crown heroes over there. And nonetheless, Soren actually shining. We don't have a low Soren. It's a P4 Soren still. But actually very, very good. And I'm very surprised. And I think if you invest into this hero more, get him to maybe 6 stars, get him the proper charm set, and then throw him in there, I think he will do very well. Because let's compare that to a Soren fight versus Andre's team. Same team, no difference. Again, Soren as the hero that we sent in to fight there. Nice thing about him, there we can see the targeting instantly moving over to the enemy side, to the most crowded area. And we can see how much damage this ult with the white swings and everything does. Again, by the way, a hero with a Supreme Plus upgrade. Which is kind of interesting. Those heroes really surprised me the most out of all the remaining heroes there are, which kind of makes sense. A lot of those were released at the beginning, were kind of weak at that time, and then of course the power crept heroes comes, and the idea of the Supreme Plus upgrade is of course to get them more in line with the power crept heroes later on. So Soren, definitely a unit. Now we come to my favorite, and yeah, I'm kind of hyped for this because this is a cool one. And this one I kind of want to do live, and it's an interesting hero. It's Hodgkin. Hodgkin, a hero where I already made one video where I said, oh, he's actually good. We kind of had a little bit of a surprise there because he got this skin, and I wanted to show the skin and then suddenly noticed, well, the damage is really, really good. The damage was quite insane, and then he got an upgrade, and he got this Supreme Plus Plus upgrade, which is pretty insane. He got a 400 initial energy. Usually his ult was very slow, with that is actually not the case. And then he also gets energy recovery, so he recovers energy for every enemy hit by his cannon, which is his ult. And then he has physical damage immunity, so this doesn't really help against Atraxi at all because, well, no physical damage there. And physical damage, as we said, kind of rare in PvP, but there are some heroes when you have faced like a Thorin, we will face a Sylvina and a Thalia to an extent. Those are all well blocked by his ability to just be immune to physical damage and recovery RHP. But the thing that really made this insane, and I want to say one more time, this guy not upgraded to the most extent. We don't have like plus 25 here, we have plus 10. We don't have P4 here, it's P3, it's still good, but it's not the same as those enemy units. All those enemy units will be resistant to his damage. And I want to show you how this really looks when this guy attacks. Because he comes out, pops out his cannon fire, and look at that, we just killed off 3 enemy units with a single ult. And I want to be honest, this was a good attempt. This was a good one. So this was probably one of the best hits that I've ever done with this guy. Yep, he just wiped out Atraxi's full crown team completely off the map. I mean, what else is there to say? You could argue we had the better artifact, but we had disadvantage. And yeah, we still wiped it off. We usually lose that. I have to be honest, we have to do one more because this is not an honest representation. This is too much hype. We usually lose that. Usually we don't get the perfect hits so that we wipe everything off. But what you can do is we can actually pull those enemies together, and this will actually amplify the damage that all of this does, or they stand good again. Yeah, you see, there the Ludovic survived, but we get the ult back so quickly. We already did the next one. This also reduces the enemy vitality, so this is something that will help you as well. Callan coming in there. He hits the allies as well. Oh, we got the animation. Cool. Yeah, big hits there at the beginning. It's a little lower later on when the attack buff wears off, but you can see how many ults you can actually do with this. And yeah, this is more of an honest representation. This is a little bit better. We got better damage though. Look at that. Out-damaged a Crown Bonnie, out-damaged a Crown Chimera. So I think that kind of shows how good this really is, and is absolutely insane. We can try it against Andre too. Mosey online once again. Usually he's online quite a lot. Let's see, there he is. We can try this one more time against Andre, and I think, granted that we have beaten Atraxi with this, it's probably quite easy to see what's going to happen now, because this is going to be another madness. And yeah, the damage output from Hodgkin is truly underrated. I have to add, I have the wrong charms. I would go for ultimate power on this guy, obviously, because, well, this. But I didn't get those, so we have skill power at the moment, which is recommended by the game, which is not too bad, but it's not really what you want if you want to have like an ultimate damage build. So this is like the thing. You have the, that is our charms, let's check those out. So this arcane set is attack skill power. Attack is good, obviously, but if we had ult power, it would be a bit better because that would actually go into this. You have more ethereal state, which is more time of the fizz immunity, but I wouldn't go for PvP into this. I would go for like the ult damage, and that would be a little bit better. Extra energy is still nice, but not worth going for it at all. So Hodgkin was definitely the one that I liked the most. So those were like the heroes that have surprised me the most. That is the first chapter of this video. Let's talk about some other heroes. So there are 3 more heroes that we are going to quickly take a look at that I think have high potential, but I don't really have in a very big form on my account. First one is Walker. Walker has a Mythic plus passive skill that allows him to throw a grenade at the enemies. And this one, of course, triggers after he got the attack buff from Pandora, so it's massively boosted. We can see, bam, how much damage this really does. The enemies quickly recover here because they are in the Ludovic field, but overall his damage output is pretty good. We got a ton of stuns there. We have a super strong Mythic plus ability, and you can imagine how much damage that could really do if this guy was P4, if this guy had maybe some other buffs on top of that. And I just want to point out, we can still go for the Core Forge artifact and activate that during the time that we have in her ult, and you can see, look at that. Look at that. I mean, it's not super quick, but there is a Ludovic there, and he just slayed the entire team, but despite Ludovic trying to heal them. So absolute monster as well. This was like the first one that I definitely want to point out, and if you have him P4, try that. That is kind of funny. Actually, that is actually kind of funny. And next one, another underrated hero that I've kind of pulled from my back a few times, and that is Reese. Very, very weak on my account, not invested at all, but always had big ults, and of course big ults become bigger, ults become even better. We can see this at the start here. Look at that. This guy's going to die. Can predict the future. It's insane. And we have really some one-shots there from the first ult. Afterwards, yeah, it becomes a little bit slow, I'll be honest. We still get like good damage, but yeah, I mean, this doesn't take them out really, but it's still fairly interesting, and I wonder what what Reese could do when we have fully invested into him. So that would be pretty cool. I just noticed it in the end cut there. He's not riding on his whatever animal that is. And that is like super small. It's kind of funny. Okay. And then lastly, we have Lenya. Lenya is also quite insane because she can do her ultimate skill also from the position where she comes out of the box. She will instantly go into a duel with an enemy, usually win that because of the massive attack buff, and then just absolutely steamroll the enemy team. You can see that right there. She's already at 4 kills. And the damage she puts out after, well, winning 4 duels essentially is absolutely insane. You definitely want that plus 10 for that, and if you have some better charms, definitely a nice choice. Absolute monster of a hero. So next up, we want to talk about well, kind of the mechanics itself, about some things that you want to do and some things that you have to be aware of so that you know all of the little tech tips and everything. So we already talked about what Pandora does essentially, but it's good to keep that in mind and kind of put it back on your own radar. What do you want from a hero that you can put into Pandora's box? Well, you want a hero that can use either one of her buffs. So either the energy or the attack, in best case both, but it's, for example, also okay if there is a hero like Coco that can only use the energy very well but provides you with a very meaningful defensive buff that might either way win you the game. For most heroes and for most of the time you will put a damage dealer in the box, and then you put a damage dealer into the box. You want one that has a very meaningful ult. That can do this ult very fast, and this kind of entails 2 things. This on the one hand entails that they want to have their ult be available from the position where they come out of the box. You don't want them to run super fast. This is a drawback if they have to do that, either because of a low amount of range or, for example, for being a melee hero, where we can take a look at an example as well in the meantime. And you don't want them to have a ton of passive skills that they have to cast before they can really do their ult and attack the enemy. For that, we will also have an example. And then you can go for the second level, and that would be quick follow-up ults. So one example of like a long animation cycle before you can even do the ult would be Damien. That is quite kind of interesting. What happens with Damien is that he will go in the box, will come out of the box, will build a toy chariot, then run to his position behind Merlin and then do his ult. His ult is not bad. He sends the toy chariot, it explodes, it does a ton of damage. It's kind of funny to see here against Andrew actually. But it takes a long time. And the way this usually works is we delay all passive skills. That is something that I've already mentioned. For example, Dundinga's ult block activates only after the 4 seconds. Kulu will build her wall up only after she comes out of the box. All of that is delayed. So the more things a hero has to do and that have an animation, the longer it will take for them to do their ult. And time is of the essence here. You want your hero to do their ult as fast as possible because you get it so fast with Pandora. If some other heroes can get their ult faster just by normally attacking you, the use of Pandora's 1000 energy feed kind of isn't there anymore. So you want to kind of have a hero that can do this very fast. For some hero, there are interesting interactions with this. For example, let's say Dianel. Dianel has a lot of attack animations at the beginning of the fight. In fact, he will stand there for I don't know how many seconds, probably longer than 4 seconds sometimes, and just drink potions and get his nectar buffs that allow him to deal true damage. An interesting fact is that he skips that completely. I noticed that during the testing. As I said, I tested every single hero. He will not drink at all. He will straight go to ulting, and you can use that to your advantage. Interestingly enough, when we comes down to the ground, we can see he had two nectar, so he had the 2 temporary buffs, but he did it without the drinking. So essentially, if you have a very strong Dianel, he's now a bit stronger. You will have to test it on a hero-to-hero basis. So the animations at the start of the battle are very, very relevant. And then next up is also the range and the behavior within the range. And for that, we want to take a look at Wraec. Wraec is a hero that is a melee hero, of course, and has, as we also formerly discussed, a movement ability that is on his second ability and is called Tidal Assault. The general idea of a hero is that as long as possible, the hero will prefer to do their ultimate skill. So as long as Wraec has full energy, he will likely try to do his ultimate skill. If the ultimate skill is not available, heroes will tend to use their skills, like Tidal Assault, for example, if it's available, or try to normal attack. For some heroes, it seems like they prefer to normal attack first. Let's take a look at the situation where Wraec is able to do their ult. And we kind of have to compare it afterwards to his normal situation. So Wraec will get his ult now because of the box. This will lead to him trying to do his ult. For that, he has to walk to the enemy. There he's able to do his ult, and I mean, in this situation, this works out very well for us. If we were stunned or something, this wouldn't have been so great, but in this situation, we wiped the enemy team, so that was pretty good. Nonetheless, we had this walking time in between us and the enemy, and we were fortunate that the Damien was so close to us so that we could do this ult immediately. Let's observe a different reaction when he comes out of the box and is unable to do his ult. Interestingly enough, for Wraec is one of those heroes that try to do a normal attack. He will not go for Tidal Assault immediately, he will try to do normal attack, and then he will go for Tidal Assault and absolutely demolish the enemy team, which is quite funny to look at. So we have very different reactions here to having the full ult. This is interesting from the following perspective. Usually Wraec works differently. Usually Wraec will not have this problem. Because the way Wraec usually works is battle starts, Wraec will walk over, do Wraec things, attack enemies. So in this case he would attack the Daemon, fill up his energy here, and at some point he would have full energy. And usually he will do his Tidal Assault before he is able to do his ult, and his Tidal Assault in this situation would lead to him going to the weakest enemy. And then he will be at the weakest enemy, will have full energy and do his ult on that enemy. So he will already be at the enemy. Wraec is a hero that is not usually walking towards enemies because he's usually at the enemy because of tough Tidal Assault. We create the very unique situation here that Wraec is actually getting his ult and full energy while not being near an enemy. And this has the weird the weird consequence that he has to walk a fair bit and sometimes react very weirdly. In that sense, we saw that he just walked to the enemy, which is less than efficient. And heroes like Cryonaya that have the necessary range don't really face such problems, as they are able to just pop out the bubble and immediately go ham with their ult. So that is a major difference between like a ranged and a normal hero. So the attack range plays a major role. You want heroes that are able to cast their ult as fast as possible from the position they are standing in, and the second part of it, as we just said, next to the animations, is also the range and the way you have to walk. And as some heroes have global range and will be able to cast their ult from the position they are standing, for some heroes that is just not the case. For some it is rather interesting. So very interesting hero that was also already covered by Brownie. Brownie made a great video about him destroying an entire enemy team with this mechanic. If you want, definitely check it out on his channel. It's also linked on my channel. Lily May is an interesting hero together with Pandora for the sole reason that she doesn't really have an ult that she could cast. So the thing about her is Lily May enters her defensive state at the start of the battle, and her ult is also to enter her defensive state. Her defensive state means she's waiting for an enemy to ult and then will counter that ult. That is her defensive state. But as she's already entering the defensive state, as soon as she leaves the box, she can't do it again with her ultimate skill, which means she can't ult. She comes out of the box unable to ult, and as we already learned, she will then default to, if possible, do her abilities, and that is what she does. She will instantly start Rainstorm Ballet, and this is something that deals a ton of damage, surprisingly enough, because it just says 65% damage, but you can buff that still, but you can see it takes off big chunks, and you can imagine how Brownie one-shot an entire enemy team with it. The damage of Lily May, by the way, is fairly interesting. It's pretty big as well, and you, of course, get 2 ult counters basically in a row with that mechanic, so this is fairly interesting, and one of the more unique mechanics. And this is really mostly everything I had about all of those mechanics. Let us quickly summarize this one more time and go over the honorable mentions, because we have to do the honorable mentions. Let's do that first. Honorable mentions, what does that mean? Well, of course, there are a lot of heroes that are very, very strong, but I haven't quite let shine in the way they should probably in this video. The reason for that is that they are mostly uninteresting, and many people just know that they are good. But I want to mention them just for the sake of completeness. So heroes that you can put in the box and that are really good. Let's start off with somebody that I had in mind for for the top heroes first, but didn't do so. It's actually Daemon. Daemon is a melee hero and tank, but has a very nice ult that has a global range. He will instantly do this big X slash that does a ton of true damage to the enemy once he comes out of the box, and this is rather nice. It's actually pretty cool. Only thing is, didn't do too much damage. It wasn't like too insane, so I thought, okay, well, probably not something I would do again, but it is something that works. So Daemon is pretty cool. Other than that, I also thought Talene is very nice. Talene also moving instantly to the middle of the map, having her ult, and also we have the wonderful skin on her, so that is really nice as well. And she will not do anything other than go immediately into her ult, doesn't have to walk because she has like movement in her ability, so that is really nice. We took a look at Diana in this video, I put that in. Obviously, Shamira is great, no question about that. It's a strong ult, it only gets stronger with more attacks, same for Cryonaya. Cryonaya, in my opinion, is still the best hero for that. I tried Odie. Odie will get a few kills. It's a little bit squishy still and has the energy recovery in his abilities anyway, so it doesn't profit too much from that, but 70% extra attack, well, that will make his poison hit hard, so this is really, really nice for that. And then lastly, of course, well, we have Siren. Siren has a great ult with 70% more attack. It only gets better, so it's absolutely great. And then Tazi, we already made a video about her, so where is she? There she is. Tazi already made a video about her, so that is some hero that we already had in mind, so not worth mentioning again exactly, but great nonetheless, and thus very worth mentioning in this video. If there are specific heroes that you still have question about, I really tested them all. I have notes on every single one. If I haven't talked about them in this video, they are probably bad. There are like some outliers where I still say, okay, maybe in the future I was a bit positive surprised about Parisa. She did good damage. I was a bit positive surprised about Flora Bell, good ult uptime and everything, but they were all a bit lackluster overall. So this is something that if I didn't talk about them in this video, they probably weren't doing too great or not profiting much from having Pandora on the battlefield. So that being said, the last thing we kind of have to do in this is again to sum it up. Summary, top heroes that I mentioned in this were Callan, Mirael, Hodgkin, Soren and Salazer, with Hodgkin being my favorite heroes. Interesting heroes, Dunlinger, Harak, Damien, Scarlita, Kulu and Lily May. And high potential if you want to check them out, Walker, Lenya and Reese, and maybe a little secret tip for the people that stayed to the end. Faramor's pretty cool. With the 70% attack buff, actually nukes quite a lot. Honourable mentions we had just a second ago, so I won't repeat that. And then, of course, if you want to support the channel, we have one more thing to do. I absolutely recommend our sponsor Lootbar. If you want to check them out, they have the best prizes for Dragon Crystals. You can go through the login top up. I absolutely recommend that. Do that myself. If you go through the link down in the description, you get some extra discount coupons to get this even cheaper. Register an account through the link down in the description and you will have them on your account. And you will also support this channel, so I would deeply appreciate that. And then lastly, tell me down in the comments if you tried any of those heroes together with Pandora. Would absolutely be thrilled to see which one of you enjoyed them. And if you tried Hodgkin, that would be pretty cool, because that was definitely my favorite. Other than that, I absolutely appreciate if you leave a like or a comment. And if you want to support me even more, then you could subscribe to the channel. That helps me the most, I have to say. And other than that, I wish you a great day. We'll see us in the next one.